What are you plugged into? What are you plugged into? Are you plugging yourself into negativity? Are you plugging yourself into doubt? Are you plugging yourself into bad association? Are you plugged into gossip? Are you plugged into backbiting? Are you plugged into negativity? Are you plugged into being dismissive? Are you plugged into being unkind? Are you plugged into not caring? Are you plugged into not doing unto others as you would have done unto you? Are you plugged into when you have earthly substance and you don't choose to help your brother and sister? Are you plugged into seeing somebody with their groceries and you beep the horn and you wave and don't stop and pause and assist him or her? Are you plugged with not showing empathy? Are you plugged into not being concerned about an issue until the issue does not arrive onto your doorstep? Are you plugged into you won't even feed the unhoused, the homeless right within your community, but you will go on the other side of the equator? Are you plugged into what is your what are you plugged into? Are you plugged into not caring? Are you plugged into are you plugging yourself into things that is not reciprocating life and life more abundantly? What are you plugged into? Are you plugged into things that are not producing life? What are you plugged into? Do you keep plugging it into things where you know you're not getting other communication or a proper flow? What are you plugged into? Are you plugged into God? Are you plugged into peace? Are you plugged into loving kindness? Are you plugged into patience? Are you plugged into long suffering? Are you plugged into the same grace that God has given you? Are you plugged into the fountain of grace that you extend that same grace unto somebody else? What are you plugged into? What are you plugged into? What are you plugged into? Are you plugged into something that is kingdom minded? Are you plugged into what are you plugged into? often what you're plugged into is the longitude and latitude, is the navigation that is either creating change or not creating change. What are you plugged into? What are you plugged into? Are you plugged into providing comfort and edification? Are you plugged into speaking to the ills of mankind? Are you plugged into distractions? What are you plugged into? Are you plugged into a vision? Are you plugged into having empathy? Are you plugged into restoration? Are you plugged correctly? Is what you are plugged into, is it healthy? Is it healthy? Is it healthy what you are plugged into? What are you plugged into? Are you plugged into people that they create drama? What are you plugged into? I know you heard me sit here and pause with hesitation, and I'm being very elaborate with what I'm talking and what I'm saying and what I'm asking about, because this is a reality that we need to have an examination. What are you plugged into? What am I plugged into? What are you plugged into? What are you plugged into? Are you plugged into me, myself, and I? You plugged into selfishness? Are you plugged into haughtiness? What are you plugged into? This is a question that you and I must get real with. We must ask ourselves, what are we plugged into? And if the thing that we're plugged into, is it healthy? Is it promoting the kingdom agenda? Is it eradicating things that are not like of God? What are you plugged into? Are you plugged into procrastination? What are you plugged into? What are you plugged into? Are you plugged into praying? Are you plugged into fasting? Are you plugged into evangelizing? Are you plugged into making a change? Are you plugged into becoming the change? Are you plugged into fulfilling the call? Are you plugged into fulfilling your purpose? Are you plugged into praying? Are you plugged into abiding in God? Are you plugged? Are you plugged? Are you plugged? Are you plugged? For the rest of this week, are you plugged? Are you plugged? Am I plugged and having the mind renewed? Am I plugged? Are we plugged into the palm of God? Are we plugged? Are we plugged into the right things? Are you plugged correctly? Are you plugged? Are you plugged? And what are you plugged into? What are you plugged into? What are you plugged into?
Life Hope Project is having our outreach on July 23rd. We are accepting all donations. Please make sure that you reach out to us on Facebook. Comment below on this live video here, and we will appreciate your endeavors, your donations, as well as if you want to be a part of this outreach event.